Mars in the 10th house. Ambition in the public eye. Welcome to Mars in the 10th house in Synastry. In this overlay, we explore what happens when one person's Mars falls into another person's 10th house, the house of career, public reputation, social standing, professional ambition, and the visible legacy a person builds through their sustained engagement with the world beyond the private self. This is one of the most publicly oriented overlays in the Mars series, and one that carries a distinctly different quality from the more personally intimate placements that have preceded it. Mars in the 10th does not operate in the body, the home, the psychological interior, or the domain of private belief. It operates in the most visible and socially exposed layer of the house person's existence, in their professional life, their public reputation, and the carefully constructed image of competence and authority that a person presents to the world when they are being seen, not as a private individual, but as a public one. What happens in the 10th house happens in the light. And Mars arriving here brings its characteristic heat and force into a domain where everything is, by definition, on display. The 10th house governs the life in its most publicly accountable dimension. It is the house of career not merely in the sense of employment, but in the deeper sense of vocation, of the sustained and purposeful engagement with the world through which a person builds a visible body of achievement and earns the recognition or suffers the consequences that come with being seen to do something in the world. It is the house of reputation, of what others see and assess when they evaluate the house person's standing, competence, and authority. It is the house of ambition in its most socially directed form, not the private ambition of the second house, which seeks material security, nor the expansive philosophical ambition of the 9th, which seeks meaning, but the specifically social ambition that seeks to be recognized, respected, and counted as significant by the world at large. In traditional astrology, the 10th house is the most angular and arguably the most powerful house in the chart, the midheaven, the highest point of the chart, the place most fully exposed to the light of public visibility. What occupies the 10th house, natally or through synastry overlay, carries enormous weight in the person's public and professional life. There is a traditional dimension to this placement that carries genuine interpretive significance. Mars, as a planet of action, drive, and the forceful pursuit of objectives, has a natural sympathy with the domain of professional ambition and public achievement. The 10th house, in the natural zodiac, is associated with Capricorn, a sign whose essential quality is the disciplined, sustained, and strategically intelligent pursuit of worldly goals. Mars and Capricorn are not natural allies in the way that Mars and Aries are, but there is a functional compatibility between Mars's drive and the 10th house's demand for sustained effort toward visible achievement. Mars in the 10th, in a natal chart, is often associated with considerable professional ambition, with a career marked by competition and forceful self-assertion, and with the capacity to pursue public goals with a directness and energy that more passive temperaments cannot always sustain. In synastry, this natal tendency translates into a dynamic in which the Mars person brings that same quality of forceful professional energy into the house person's career domain, with consequences that range from genuinely catalytic to significantly disruptive, depending on how well the Mars person's drive aligns with, rather than overrides, the house person's own professional direction and ambition. From the Mars person's perspective, the house person's professional world and public life are immediately engaging and, in some sense, activating. The Mars person is drawn to the house person's career, their public reputation, their professional ambitions, drawn not merely to observe or admire, but to engage with, to contribute to, and in some cases, to direct. There is often a genuine desire here to be involved in the house person's professional life, to offer energy, initiative, and drive to the house person's public domain, to function as a catalyst for the house person's career advancement and public achievement. The Mars person may feel a real enthusiasm for the house person's professional goals and a genuine willingness to invest considerable energy in helping those goals be realized. The Mars person in this overlay is also likely to be acutely aware of the house person's public standing, of their reputation, their professional achievements, and the degree to which their public image reflects the qualities the Mars person values. There is a quality of genuine respect for professional competence and public achievement that Mars in the 10th can produce, a real admiration for the house person's capacity to operate effectively in the public and professional domain. The Mars person may find the house person's ambition and professional drive among their most attractive qualities and may feel a genuine kinship with the house person on the basis of a shared orientation toward achievement and public recognition. The Mars person may also, however, find themselves with strong and not always welcome opinions about how the house person manages their public and professional life, about the direction of their career, the adequacy of their professional ambitions, the effectiveness of their public presentation, or the strategic intelligence of their professional choices. Mars, whose instinct is to act, to push, and to pursue objectives with maximum force and minimum hesitation, may find the house person's more considered or cautious approach to professional life frustrating, may experience the house person's deliberateness as a lack of drive, their strategic patience as timidity, their careful management of public reputation as an insufficient commitment to the bold and forceful self-assertion that Mars regards as the only genuinely effective mode of professional engagement. From the house person's perspective, the Mars person's energy arrives in the most publicly visible and professionally consequential domain of their life. This can be experienced, particularly in the earlier stages of the relationship, as a genuine and valuable injection of professional energy and ambition. The Mars person may function as a real catalyst for the house person's career, pushing them toward professional goals they had been hesitant to pursue, encouraging them to assert themselves more forcefully in professional contexts, introducing an energy and momentum into the house person's public life that produces tangible results in the form of career advancement, professional recognition, or the more vigorous and confident pursuit of public ambitions that the house person had previously approached with insufficient drive. The house person may also find, however, that the Mars person's presence in their 10th house introduces a quality of pressure into their professional life that is not always welcome or productive. The 10th house is a domain in which the house person has invested considerable effort in building a reputation, a career trajectory, and a public image that reflects their considered judgment about what they want their professional life to mean and how they want to be seen in the world. When Mars arrives here through another person's chart, it brings an energy that is not always aligned with that considered judgment, that pushes toward faster, bolder, and more forceful professional action than the house person's own strategic intelligence recommends. And that may regard the house person's carefully managed professional reputation as an unnecessarily conservative constraint on what the Mars person regards as appropriate levels of professional ambition and self-assertion. At its most constructive, Mars in the 10th house creates a relationship with a genuine and productive professional dimension, one in which the Mars person's energy is a real asset to the house person's career and public life, introducing drive, initiative, and a quality of forceful professional self-assertion that the house person genuinely benefits from. The Mars person may open professional doors for the house person, advocate for them in public and professional contexts, with a directness and energy that the house person, more attuned to the careful management of reputation, might not deploy as effectively on their own behalf. There is a quality of genuine professional partnership possible here, a sense that the Mars person's force and the house person's strategic intelligence together produce a more effective engagement with the public and professional world than either person could sustain independently. This overlay is also associated with a relationship that has a genuine quality of mutual ambition, in which both people are oriented toward achievement, toward public recognition, and toward the building of something visible and lasting in the world. The Mars person's drive in the 10th house keeps the house person professionally engaged and forward-moving, preventing the comfortable stagnation that can sometimes afflict a person whose ambition has not been recently challenged or activated. The house person's professional domain gives the Mars person's energy a direction of genuine public consequence. It becomes something worth the Mars person's considerable force, something that extends beyond the merely personal and into the visible record of what the two people have built together. The shadow dimension of this overlay requires careful attention because the 10th house is a domain where the consequences of Mars's more difficult expressions are not merely personal, but public, visible to the professional world, with implications for the house person's reputation and career that may extend well beyond the relationship itself. Mars in the 10th, when it operates without sufficient awareness or genuine respect for the house person's professional autonomy, can produce consequences that are damaging not only to the house person's experience of the relationship, but to the standing they have worked, often over many years, to establish in the world. At the level of ordinary difficulty, this overlay produces conflict over professional direction, over the house person's career choices, their professional priorities, the pace and boldness of their public ambitions, and the degree to which they are, in the Mars person's assessment, making the most of their professional potential. The Mars person's instinct to push, to direct, and to press for more forceful professional action can become a source of persistent friction in the relationship, with the house person feeling that their professional judgment is consistently second-guessed, their strategic patience consistently misread as inadequate drive, and their carefully managed public reputation consistently threatened by the Mars person's appetite for a more aggressive and less cautious mode of professional engagement. There is also a specific shadow dynamic in the 10th house that distinguishes this overlay from the more privately expressed difficulties of the lower houses. Mars in the 10th can produce a dynamic in which the Mars person's competitive instincts, always present, always activated, are directed not toward the professional world at large, but toward the house person themselves. The Mars person may find themselves in competition with the house person in the professional or public domain, may feel threatened by the house person's achievements, resentful of their recognition, or motivated to diminish the house person's public standing in ways that serve the Mars person's own competitive needs, rather than the house person's genuine professional interests. This competitive shadow, when it is active, can manifest as subtle or not so subtle undermining of the house person's professional reputation, in public contexts, in shared professional networks, or in the private conversations through which reputations are managed, and professional standing is either supported or eroded. The public dimension of this shadow must be named with particular care. The 10th house is not a private domain. What happens here happens in the light, in professional networks, in shared social circles, in the public record of what the house person has achieved and how they are regarded by the world that matters to their career. Mars that operates destructively in the 10th house does not merely damage the house person's private experience. It damages their reputation. And a damaged professional reputation is a form of harm with practical consequences that persist long after the relationship itself has ended. The Mars person who uses their position in the house person's professional life to advance their own interests at the house person's expense, or who allows their competitive instincts to find expression in the undermining of the house person's public standing, is a Mars person whose malefic potential is being expressed in a domain where the damage is both visible and lasting. At its highest expression, Mars in the 10th house creates a relationship with a genuine and productive public dimension, one in which both people are more professionally ambitious, more publicly engaged, and more effectively directed toward the building of a visible and lasting legacy for the encounter. The Mars person brings force, initiative, and a quality of courageous professional self-assertion that the house person's career genuinely benefits from, pushing them toward greater achievement, broader recognition, and a more energetic and confident engagement with the public world. The house person gives the Mars person's drive a direction of genuine public consequence, a professional domain substantial enough to be worthy of Mars's considerable energy and strategic enough to give that energy lasting and visible results. When balanced, Mars in the 10th house creates professional vitality, shared ambition, courageous public engagement, and a relationship in which both people are made more professionally effective, more publicly visible, and more actively directed toward meaningful achievement in the world. When imbalanced, it produces professional conflict, competitive undermining, the erosion of the houseperson's carefully built reputation, and the use of public and professional contexts as terrain for a Mars that has turned its force not toward the building of the houseperson's public life, but toward the systematic dismantling of it. What this overlay ultimately rests upon is a question about the nature of ambition in the context of genuine partnership, whether the Mars person's considerable professional drive is oriented toward elevating the houseperson's public life alongside their own, or whether the competitive instinct that Mars carries into every domain it occupies has found, in the houseperson's career and reputation, not a worthy collaborator, but a convenient rival. The 10th house is where a person's life becomes visible to the world. What Mars chooses to do with that visibility, to honor it, to amplify it, or to compete with it, is the whole of what this placement finally means.
This was Mars in the 10th house in Synastry Overlays. Thank you for listening. Next, Mars in the 11th house.